The girl with the limp stood at the edge of the park, a light breeze tugging at her long, flowing dress. It swirled around her ankles, the soft fabric catching the golden rays of the setting sun. Around her, children laughed, playing tag, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers. But she was lost in her world, eyes focused on the old wooden stage in the center of the park. Every year, the town held a dance festival, and today was no different. The stage was set, a canvas waiting for colors to come alive. As people gathered, she took a deep breath, willing herself to step forward. But the limp in her left leg felt heavier than usual, a reminder of all the times she had to censor her own dreams because of it. Her name was Mia, and she had always loved to dance. As the music began to play, bright notes filled the air, vibrant and lively. Mia clenched her hands, wishing that she could join the others, spinning and twirling. Just a year ago, she would have been on that stage without a second thought, but after her accident, everything changed. It felt like the universe ripped her passion away, leaving her standing on the sidelines. Then she noticed him, a boy in the crowd with tousled hair and kind eyes, Jake. He watched the performers with quiet admiration, his face lit by a genuine smile. Jake had seen Mia before, laughing and dancing as if the stage was her second home. But now he could see the slight hesitation in her movements. He wanted to reach out and tell her it's okay, that it doesn't matter how she moves, it matters that she moves at all. Mia watched the dancers, feeling a mix of sorrow and yearning. Memories flooded through her, the mornings spent in dance classes, toes pressed against the wooden floor, her body gliding effortlessly. But now every step felt like a battle. She could almost hear the laughter of the instructors, pushing her to go further, to leap higher. The dance hall echoed with cheers, but now it felt like an echo of a distant past. As the music swelled, a dancer leaped into the air, landing perfectly, her arms open wide, embracing the applause. Mia felt a pang of longing twist inside her. She wanted to be that girl. She wanted to feel free, to hear that applause, to lose herself in the rhythm without thinking about the limp that haunted her. Jake, noticing her gaze, felt compelled to approach her. He made his way through the throngs of dancers and spectators, his heart beating a little faster. When he reached her, he paused for just a moment, taking in the beauty of her presence mixed with a hint of sadness. "Hey," he said, his voice warm. Mia turned to him, her guard immediately going up. "I can't," she replied softly, glancing down at her feet, ashamed of what constricted her. Jake shook his head, a gentle smile on his face. "I don't think dancing is about perfection," he replied, his eyes brightening. "It's about feeling the music." His words wrapped around Mia like a warm blanket, sinking deep into her heart, but still doubt lingered. "You don't understand," she whispered. Jake repeated gently. "You might have a limp, but that doesn't define who you are." His voice was steady, unwavering, filled with a certainty Mia had never felt in her own heart. The melody continued to swirl around them, the sounds mixing as if they were part of a dance themselves. Mia felt her breath catch in her throat, a battle of feelings raging inside her. Could she overcome the limitations? Could she rise above the fears that held her captive? "Just give it a try," Jake encouraged, extending a hand towards her. Mia paused. It felt so easy to stay in the safety of her own bubble, but that tiny spark of hope began to flicker again. She took a step forward, heart racing, and grasped his hand. "Just for one song," she whispered. As they made their way to the stage, Mia's heart thumped loudly in her chest. The world seemed to fade away, leaving only Jake and the music. To step on that stage felt like stepping into a dream she had long believed was lost. They climbed onto the wooden platform, and for a moment, Mia felt like she was on top of the world. The audience's eyes turned towards her. The music flowed through her like a river, and she felt the familiar pull to move. There was no perfect step, no flawless pirouette, there was just her. Jake stepped closer, moving in sync with her. He didn't judge her limp, he celebrated every small movement. They danced, and while Mia's limbs sometimes struggled, she felt free. Each twist and turn became a small triumph, and all the laughter and applause wrapped around her like a symphony. The crowd began to cheer, their voices rising above the notes of the music. Mia could hardly believe it. She danced not for perfection, but for passion. Her smile grew wider as each note invited her to let go of all that held her down. It was as if every uncertain step was met with support. When the song came to an end, the crowd erupted into applause, and Mia's heart soared. In that moment, the limp didn't matter. She felt beautiful, alive, and unbroken. Jake spun her around, and she laughed, a sound so full of joy that it echoed through the park. As the final chord rang out, she knew that this was just the beginning. The fear that weighed her down was still there, but now it felt manageable. She dared to believe that she could dance again, not just for the applause, but for herself. After they stepped off the stage, Mia turned to Jake breathlessly, her eyes shining. "Thank you," she murmured, her heart swelling with gratitude. Jake shrugged, a playful grin on his face. "You did all the dancing." "Well, that nudge was everything," Mia replied, her heart still racing. As they walked through the crowd together, she realized that this day would forever be etched in her memory. It wasn't just about dancing, it was about the courage to confront what held her back. Days passed, and Mia found herself returning to the park not just to watch but to dance. She started to move again, each fleeting step reminding her of the joy she thought she had lost. With every visit, the limp became less of a weight and more of a dance partner, an endless journey of growth and resilience. The bond between Mia and Jake blossomed over time. They met often under the overlay of sunset, sharing laughter and stories. She learned so much from him, not just about dance, but about life, the beauty found in imperfections, and the strength of vulnerability. As their friendship deepened, Mia's heart began to understand something she had long denied. Love can weave its way into the cracks. It can illuminate the dark corners where fear once lived. One day, as they settled into a quiet spot under a tree by the lake, Jake turned to her. "You know, I've watched you grow stronger every single day. You remind me that we all have our struggles." Mia met his gaze, feeling a warmth spread through her. The feelings she had bottled up were ready to break free, like the waves lapping at the shore. "I used to think I was broken because of this limp," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But now I see it as just a part of me, like a scar that tells a story." He smiled, his eyes twinkling with admiration. "Exactly, you are not defined by what holds you back." His words ignited a spark inside her. In that moment, Mia understood. It was no longer about the limp, it was about the rhythm of her heart. It was about embracing every step, every struggle, every moment. As time went on, Mia took to the stage more often, not just for the dance festival, but for herself. The music became an affirmation of her spirit, and each dance became a testimony to resilience. In every twirl, every leap, she left behind remnants of doubt. The crowd became witnesses to her journey, and applause echoed louder with each performance. And through it all, Jake remained by her side, a steadfast companion who showed her that true strength lies not in perfection, but in the willingness to embrace the life she had, a life filled with every possibility. Mia continued to dance, each movement a celebration of her story. Every step was infused with courage, reminding her that she was more than the girl with the limp. She was the girl who danced through her struggles, who faced her fears head-on and chose to live her life fully with passion, grace, and a heart wide open. And he watched, not just as a spectator, but as someone who believed in her light, cheering her on, soul intertwined with hers in the dance of life. The music slowed, the lights dimmed, and the crowd held their breath as she stood on the edge of the stage. Mia, the girl with the limp, gazed down at the floorboards, her heart pounding like a drum. In that moment, she was terrified. Would she be able to dance? Would they see her limp? But something inside her ignited a flicker of determination in a heart that had been bruised too many times. The spotlight washed over her, illuminating the small imperfections and shadows of doubt. Yet just as doubt crept in, it was pushed back by a surge of hope. Dancing was not just her passion, it was the very essence of who she was. With a deep breath, Mia stepped forward, placing her right foot on the polished wood of the stage. It felt sturdy beneath her, as if it could hold not just her weight, but her dreams too. With every step, she felt the eyes of the audience on her. Some looked curious, others skeptical, but there was one pair of eyes that made all the difference. Jake, standing at the back of the crowd with soft brown hair and an encouraging smile, watched her every move. The opening notes of a haunting melody filled the air. She began to sway. Her left leg, still carrying that limp from the accident, felt heavy, but she pushed through. Each movement told a story of resilience, of joy overshadowed by pain. The rhythm called to her, and with each beat, she remembered the time she spent in her dance studio, the wooden floors, the bright mirrors, the laughter of classmates. The audience remained silent, captivated by the struggle of this girl who wouldn't let her fears hold her back. Mia twirled slowly at first, a cautious pirouette that swayed her whole body. She could feel the tension in the air like a bowstring pulled tight, ready to break. But in that moment, she decided to let it go. There was power in vulnerability. She allowed herself to feel the music deep within her soul. Every twist brought her closer to a sense of freedom. Mia's eyes sparkled as she danced, not perfectly, but passionately. The limp she once considered a curse became an instrument of expression, a rhythm that gave her story depth. She felt fluid, despite her limitations, and she took that very moment to embrace everything that made her unique. The crowd began to cheer, and behind them, Jake's expression shifted to something almost reverent. It was as if he was discovering a hidden treasure, watching Mia reveal her true self in front of them. With every twirl, her confidence grew, and so did the intensity of the applause. The crowd became a tapestry of support, each cheer wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. In that spot on stage, she felt both fragile and invincible. The music carried her, breathless and alive. She could finally see that her limp didn't diminish her spirit, it added to her complexity. It filled her movements with story, and she was the storyteller. Her left leg found its rhythm, turning the limp into strength. As the notes of the song swelled, she spun faster. She no longer thought of herself as the girl who couldn't dance. She was the girl who danced against all odds. The audience watched, mesmerized, and with each shout of encouragement, she felt a newfound power surging through her veins. But Mia was not just dancing for their applause. She was dancing for herself and for that vulnerable part of her that had stayed hidden for too long. She remembered her days of therapy, the small victories, the fights against hopelessness. She remembered the lonely nights when the darkness felt suffocating. And here she was, proving that she could move, that she could shine. As the song neared its climax, Mia felt energy pulse through her body. She glanced toward Jake, who was now standing at the front of the crowd, his eyes wide with admiration. Her heart soared at the sight. In his gaze, she saw acceptance, warmth, and a belief in her that she had almost forgotten to believe in herself. Without thinking, she beckoned him closer, extending her hand. The music swelled even higher, and Jake stepped onto the stage, his heart racing. For a brief second, the world fell away. There were no judgments, no whispers about her limp. There was just the two of them, the energy flowing between them like an invisible thread, uniting them in the moment. Together they danced. It was raw and beautiful, a conversation without words. He matched her rhythm, his steps light and buoyant. The crowd erupted into applause as they moved together, weaving a tapestry of joy and connection. No longer was Mia the girl with the limp. She was a dancer, a partner in the art of expressing the unspeakable through movement. Time passed, the music slowly faded, but the applause didn't. It resonated, lingering in the air as Mia and Jake shared a breathless laugh. They stood together, hand in hand, soaking in the moment. For the first time, Mia felt whole, no longer defined by what held her back, but by the joy of what she had just accomplished. But as the curtain fell and the lights dimmed, reality crept back in. The bright stage turned to darkness, and the applause faded into echoes. Mia stepped down, heart still racing, but once again doubt seeped in. How long would this last? How long before she was just the girl with the limp again? Jake, sensing her shift in mood, placed a hand on her shoulder. "Hey," he said softly. His smile adorned his face, encouraging her to embrace her triumph. "Thanks," she replied, her voice shaky. But the warmth in his eyes reminded her of the magic they had just shared on stage, yet a part of her still feared, what if this was fleeting? As days went by, Mia found herself returning to the stage for practice, feeding off the thrill of that performance. But with every move, the old voices crept back in. Could she keep it up? What if she stumbled in front of everyone? Little by little, the vibrant feelings faded into the shadows of doubt. Jake noticed the change. While Mia danced, once brimming with passion, she began to hesitate, second-guessing every step. One afternoon, he asked, "What's going on, Mia? You were so alive last time." She sighed, her heart heavy. "I don't know, Jake. I guess I just can't shake the feeling that this is temporary." Jake took a moment, searching for the right words. "But what if this is just the beginning? You've come so far, your limp doesn't dictate your artistry." His words struck a chord. "Dance is more than movement," he continued. "It's about expressing who you are, imperfections and all." Mia thought for a moment, feeling the wisdom in his voice. "You know, it's funny," she said, a small smile curling on her lips. "When we danced together, I didn't see anything but the joy of it all." "Don't lose sight of it," Jake urged gently. "You're not defined by the stage, you carry your art with you. It's in every moment you dance." In that moment, clarity washed over her like a wave. It didn't matter where she was or how others viewed her. What mattered was her spirit and how she could share it with the world. Mia spent the next few days rediscovering herself, reminded of the feeling that danced inside her, waiting to be freed. The rhythm became more than just steps, it morphed into a language. Each day she worked harder, each day she smiled wider, and each day she became less afraid. When the annual dance festival arrived, Mia was ready. The crowd gathered once again, buzzing with energy, waiting to be inspired. The stage was set, and this time she didn't hesitate. She stepped forward, fear behind her, courage ahead. She could hear the music beckoning to her. The spotlight shone, and for a moment it felt like the world stopped. She could feel Jake's presence near the front, his energy intertwined with hers. As the music began, she took a deep breath and let go. This time she danced not just for the applause, but for the sheer joy of being alive. With each note, the limp transformed into dance, the hurt into artistry. She let the rhythm guide her unapologetically, her heart beating in sync with the music. The audience cheered, but Mia didn't just hear them, she felt them. Each clap resonated with her spirit, each shout of encouragement wrapped around her like a warm embrace. She was unstoppable. And as she leaped into the air, her heart soaring, she realized something profound. The girl with the limp had learned to lead with her heart, to dance through her struggles. She was no longer hidden behind the shadows of doubt. In that moment, she was the embodiment of resilience, the girl who danced through life, imperfection and all. But more importantly, she was loved, seen, and accepted for exactly who she was, limps and all. And he watched, celebrating her triumph, sharing in the incredible journey of a girl who embraced her story and found strength in the dance of life. The crowd held its breath as the spotlight flickered to life, illuminating an empty stage. A hush fell over the park, the excitement like electricity in the air. Everyone wondered who would step forward, who would claim this moment. There on the edge stood Mia, the girl with the limp. She glanced briefly at her legs. The limp was a part of her, a constant reminder of the accident that stole her ease of movement. But today the limp would also be her power. The past loomed heavy within her, tamping down those joyful memories of dancing in her childhood. This moment felt electric, yet tethered to fear. As the music began to play, a haunting melody swept over the crowd, called to her, each note like a whisper promising freedom. She took a step forward, heart racing. What if I stumble? Those fears wrapped around her like a coil, squeezing tightly. With a shaky breath, Mia reached for the music and held it tightly. She lifted her chin and stepped onto the stage. The first few notes welcomed her into the embrace of the moment, drawing her away from the anxieties pressing down on her. As she moved, she could feel the weight of the audience's gaze, but what she saw was not judgment. In the back, Jake watched with bated breath. He had seen her dance before the accident, and he remembered the lightness of her spirit, the joy radiating like rays of sunshine. Now he saw the tension in her body, the uncertainty flickering across her face. But he didn't see a girl defined by her limp. He saw resilience. The music surged and Mia twirled, her movements tentative at first. She felt the stage beneath her feet, solid yet vulnerable. With each turn, she pushed back against the weight of her fears, those long-held doubts surfacing like unwelcome shadows. The crowd remained still, suspended in sacred silence, waiting. Mia danced deeper into the rhythm. Her body began to recall the joy of movement that once came naturally. She felt her spirit lift with the notes, rising higher above the fog of self-consciousness. It wasn't about being perfect, it was about being free. With each sway, she embraced the tug of the past and molded it into something beautiful. The dance wasn't just about grace anymore. It became a declaration, a mantra that echoed in her heart, "I am here." As she continued, her left leg began to fall into the rhythm, the limp transforming into a unique style. It was no longer a hindrance, but an integral part of her story. She saw Jake out of the corner of her eye, his face illuminated with awe. His energy fueled her. Each clap and cheer that came from the audience sent shivers down her spine, but it was knowing that he believed in her that made her heart race. The music swelled, life pouring from her fingertips, embracing every beat. They were no longer just sounds, they were emotions swirling around her, giving her the strength to fly. The audience began to respond, their murmurs morphing into a chorus, a swell of support that enveloped her like a warm blanket. But then, just as she felt invincible, something seemed to shift. The music slowed, a minor key entering the melody. Her thoughts spiraled back to real life. What if you tripped? Those thoughts threatened to drown her spirit. In a split second, she nearly hesitated, but then she took a breath, drawing strength from the reality that she had already come so far. With renewed determination, she spun again, this time with more ferocity, more joy. The fear was real, but it had become a part of her dance. She was no longer running from her fears, she was embracing them. She hit the ground with unexpected passion, her feet connecting with the rhythm in ways that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. And there was Jake leaning closer, captivated. He had watched her struggle, and now, as he gazed at her, awe transformed into admiration. He remembered the days when her laughter filled the studio, when she leaped across the floor like she owned every inch of it. Now he could see that same light coming back, pierced through the clouds of doubt she had erected around herself. As the song reached its crescendo, Mia propelled herself across the stage, her limbs dancing like leaves caught in a whirlwind. Every cheer from the audience became fuel, feeding her spirit. She closed her eyes and lifted her face toward the light, letting the warmth wash over her. But in a moment of exhilaration, she felt it, a small misstep, a slip of her footing. Fear shot through her mind, she was going to fall. Time seemed to stretch into eternity as she tried to catch herself, panic gripping her heart. But instead of breaking, something within her snapped into focus. She twisted in midair, pivoting with surprising grace. Rather than crumbling into chaos, she channeled that moment of panic into a move she had never practiced, a spontaneous leap that transformed into an artful landing. To the audience, it appeared deliberate, but for Mia, it was a raw moment of courage. The crowd erupted into loud applause, cheering like she had just performed the most breathtaking feat. She stood tall. The limp, now part of her choreography, became a badge of honor. Fighting back tears, she took a bow, feeling as though she had woven a tapestry of courage that bound her tightly to this moment. As she stepped off the stage, adrenaline thrummed through her veins. She looked at Jake, who stood waiting at the edge, eyes filled with admiration and pride. He exclaimed, his voice rising above the lingering cheers. Mia grinned, the weight of uncertainty lifting for the first time. "Did you see that?" she said, still catching her breath. "But you didn't," he replied, stepping forward, his gaze serious yet warm. "You transformed it into something beautiful. That's the essence of dance. It's not about perfection, it's about emotion." In that moment, it crystallized for her. Every struggle she faced didn't erase her worth. Each challenge added nuance to her story. She was incomplete, perhaps, but she wasn't broken. Each performance was a step toward healing. Days turned into weeks. Mia continued to dance, pouring her heart into every practice. She found new rhythms, explored different styles, and unleashed emotions she didn't know were hiding inside her. With every small victory, each perfect pirouette, each strong landing, her confidence swelled. But the outside world still had its bruises. Some days felt bright, other days felt like climbing mountains. Mia often battled self-doubt. After a particularly challenging day, she collapsed into a chair, worn and vulnerable. What if she was merely an illusion of confidence? What if they actually saw the limp? Jake approached. "Hey," he said, his tone tender. She murmured. Jake knelt beside her, awaiting the threads of her vulnerability. "You don't have to dance to be enough," he said, eyes piercing through her defenses. "You simply are." His voice wrapped around her like a warm hug. She realized he understood her struggle. It was okay to feel weak, to feel lost. Those emotions didn't make her a failure, they made her human. As the weeks unfolded, she noticed how the tiny seeds of growth began to blossom. And gradually she transformed her fears into fuel. Every time she felt doubt creeping in, she recalled the journey, the stage, the audience, Jake's unwavering support. One evening, under the soft glow of street lamps, they walked together after a practice. Jake asked, curiosity dancing in his eyes. Mia replied, wondering what ideas were swirling in that imaginative mind. Combine our passions. Dance with a message, he suggested. Create something that speaks not just to elegance, but to the raw, gritty truth that life isn't always polished. The thought sparked a fire within her. She visualized a performance that embodied struggles, raw emotions tangled with beauty, and art piece that transcended choreography. They brainstormed, finding ways to integrate both their visions. Slowly, the idea transformed into a project. They reached out to local dance groups, finding those who felt unseen, those who carried stories behind their smiles. They organized a community performance that would give a voice to the overlooked, where every movement echoed resilience. When the day of the community performance arrived, the air hummed with an electrifying mix of excitement and nervousness. Mia stood backstage, her heart pounding with anticipation. She could hear the whispers of the crowd, the shuffling of feet, the laughter. All of those emotions felt alive, ready to break free. As she stepped into the transformative light, she was no longer just the girl with the limp. She was a beacon of hope to others, a living testament that stories could be woven through movement. The music began, a melody filled with both joy and somber undertones, and Mia took a deep breath. In this performance, each dancer carried their own stories, their struggles, their fears. Mia embraced her limp as she danced, showing how it didn't define her, but rather propelled her forward. The audience felt the raw energy, clapping along, resonating with every note, every shake of emotion. Backstage, Jake beamed. He watched with awe, knowing this wasn't just her journey, it was a journey for everyone involved. They all danced as one, a beautiful tapestry of life's highs and lows, stitched together with vulnerability. As the final song echoed, Mia stood still amidst the lively applause, her heart swelling. The audience rose to their feet, cheering not just because of artistry, but because they felt the truth in every step. They celebrated with her, for every wound, every struggle was recognized and honored. She caught Jake's eye in the crowd, his smile radiant and proud. In that moment, she understood it was more than just a limp. It was part of her heartbeat, part of her dance, part of her spirit. Mia realized she would never be perfect, and that was okay. Imperfection made her more compelling, stronger, an emblem of resilience. So she would keep dancing, keep living, keep embracing her story, and he would be there, always watching, always supporting. Because sometimes freeing yourself means being seen, being celebrated, and daring to dance unapologetically, limp and all. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, eyes fixed on the stage as the first notes of music danced into the air. A moment of silence held, suspended in time. And then, with every heart beating in rhythm, Mia stepped into the spotlight. The girl with the limp, she took a breath, pulling in the energy of the crowd that swirled around her like a living entity. But behind her confident stance, a storm brewed. She glanced down at her left leg, hesitant, remembering the accident that had shredded her dreams of effortless movement. A surgery, months of therapy, and still a limp, a reminder etched in her very existence. Yet today, she wasn't just defined by her struggle. Today was a battle, and she was ready to fight. As the music swelled, Mia closed her eyes, allowing the melody to wash over her. She could feel her heart pounding in time with the beat, a reassurance that reminded her she was alive. Her body swayed slow, tentative at first. Each movement felt like stepping into a new world, one that embraced both the beauty and the pain. And there, at the back of the grand hall, stood Jake. He watched intently, his heart aching with admiration. He had always known Mia was special. Before the accident, she lit up the stage, drawing everyone into her orbit. But now he saw the internal battle raging within her. He felt a connection that transcended words. It was as if they shared an unspoken pact, an understanding that this moment was a pivotal point in her life. As the chorus echoed, Mia gathered her courage. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, but the internal chatter faded away as she gripped the music tightly. Fear transformed into determination. With every spin, she let the music guide her, her body moving not just with the melody, but against the tides of doubt. The limp felt heavy, but as she spun, she discovered a new rhythm. She wasn't just dancing, she was telling a story crafted from her resilience. Each movement became a declaration that she would not be defined by her limitations. The crowd erupted into applause as she leaped across the stage, limbs fluid yet strong. Every cheer reinvigorated her spirit, wrapping her in a blanket of warmth that radiated from every corner of the hall. She could see the faces, some curious, some hesitant, but Jake's face was unwavering, filled with pride. As Mia lost herself in the dance, a sudden misstep sent a bolt of panic through her. The world slowed. Legs tangled, fear not just of falling, but of failing gnawed at her. But in that fleeting moment when the world felt like it would collapse around her, something unexpected happened. She spun out of the slip, transforming uncertainty into an artistic flourish. The audience gasped, then cheered like a storm, mesmerized. Mia felt the adrenaline surge through her body, filling the gaps left by fear. She began to trust the music more than ever, amplifying her strength. The limp, that unwavering companion, was no longer an obstacle. It became part of a dance that celebrated her journey. As she joyfully conveyed her truth, she saw the connection in Jake's eyes, a mixture of amazement and empathy. He understood this dance was not just for the audience, it was for her own healing, her declaration of self-worth. The song swelled to a climax, the notes intertwining with the very essence of her spirit. Her feet moved faster, and with every beat, the weight of her past, her guilt, her inadequacies slowly dissolved. She was not the girl with the limp anymore. She was a conqueror, a dancer who defied conventions. The audience roared with appreciation, pulling her higher as they cheered her triumph over pain. But as the final notes resonated and the applause cascaded, something flickered within Mia. The overwhelming rush of euphoria gave way to an uneasy feeling. What would happen when the lights dimmed and the crowd dispersed? Would she return to feeling like an outsider, like the girl who couldn't dance? As the stage lights dimmed and the audience began to scatter, fear crept in like an unwelcome shadow. Mia stepped off the stage, her heart both soaring and sinking. Jake approached, his face alight with joy but also with concern. He said, his eyes shimmering with admiration. "Thank you," she whispered, the initial thrill of the performance feeling distant. But what if it was just a fluke? "Tomorrow is just another day," he said, his voice steady. "But today you danced, and you danced beautifully. Don't let the fear take away what you just accomplished. You have so much power inside you, Mia." Her heart tightened. She wanted to believe him, yet something kept her tethered to doubt. That night, as she lay in bed, exhaustion washed over her, but her mind raced. Could she keep dancing? Could she really turn this fleeting moment into a new reality? Days became a blur of practice and self-doubt. Mia returned to the stage, her confidence wavering as she fought against her insecurities. But each attempt to dance felt laborious, as if she were carrying the weight of her fears on her shoulders. The spark from the performance seemed like a distant memory. Even Jake, supportive and encouraging, couldn't push her to believe in herself. One evening, as she practiced alone, exhaustion and frustration mingled together. She grabbed a chair, sinking into its embrace, and gazed across the empty studio. Like a world removed from the vivid colors of her earlier performance. She whispered to herself, tears pooling in her eyes. Just then, Jake stepped through the door, carrying a simple bouquet of wildflowers, a favorite of Mia's. "Thought you could use these," he said casually, but his eyes glistened with understanding. "Thank you," she said, taking the flowers, trying to mask the swell of emotions within her. "I feel lost, Jake." He sat down next to her, letting the silence blanket them for a moment. "Feelings can be complicated," he said gently. "Sometimes you have to let yourself feel them to figure it out. It's okay to be scared and uncertain. Just remember that those performances you give, they come from the heart." As she listened, an ember ignited within her. Here was this boy with unwavering faith in her. She could see the storms in his eyes too, the moments of doubt he fought against. It reminded her that no one was perfect. They were all just navigating this turbulent world together. She turned to Jake, emotion bubbling up. "Every day," he replied, his voice resolute. "But I won't let it stop me from being myself. I think about how we let fear hold us back." She asked, curiosity sparking. Jake leaned closer, excited. "What if we create something that invites people to feel?" Mia's heart raced, the idea swirling like a whirlwind inside her. "Exactly, we can gather stories and turn them into dance. It's not about elegance, it's about vulnerability." Suddenly, the spark of inspiration that had dimmed within Mia began to flourish again. She could feel the possibility igniting her spirit. "We could involve others, two people who carry their own stories," she said, her mind racing with ideas. "Let's reach out to the community," Jake encouraged. "We can create a performance that reflects life, the ups and downs." From that day forward, the two became a dynamic duo, fueled not just by creativity, but by a shared commitment to authenticity. They reached out to dancers of all levels and backgrounds, gathering stories and experiences that resonated with their mission. As the rehearsals began, something beautiful happened. The studio filled with laughter and camaraderie, stories woven through movement. Dancers shared their struggles, their fears, and moments of triumph. With each story shared, Mia felt a weight lift. She was no longer alone in her journey. They were all together in this exploration of vulnerability. In the midst of this blossoming community, Mia began to rediscover herself. Every dance became a window into the lives of others, each movement telling a unique tale. She felt more alive, more empowered, and perhaps for the first time truly connected to the dance she once feared could never be hers again. As the day of their big performance approached, Mia felt a blend of excitement and nerves. Would they be able to capture the beauty of every story? Would their audience understand the emotions they were pouring into their movements? On the night of the performance, the atmosphere was electric. The hall was packed with eager faces, a sea of anticipation. As the lights dimmed, the audience quieted. Mia stood offstage, heart racing, not with fear, but with purpose. The music began, a symphony of sounds that merged with the heartbeat of the room. As the dancers moved onto the stage, Mia felt the crowd lean in, ready to embark on this emotional journey. With each act, they shared a life story, a struggle with loss, a fight against self-doubt, an embrace of identity. They wove their narratives into movements, their feelings igniting the air around them. The audience felt the pull of honesty threaded through every performance. It wasn't just a dance, it was a shared experience, breaking down walls that separated them from each other. Mia took her turn, stepping into the spotlight with an unwavering sense of belonging. As she danced, the limp was still present, but so was her strength. Each step told a story of resilience, showing that vulnerability didn't diminish her, it made her whole. She finished, the applause roared through the hall, but it felt different this time. A powerful wave of connection, a celebration of their shared humanity. As the final act ended, the curtain fell, but the energy in the room lingered. Mia turned to Jake, tears brimming with joy. "We did it," Jake grinned widely, his excitement contagious. "We changed the narrative, Mia. We didn't just dance, we created something that matters." As they stepped off the stage, the feeling of triumph hung in the air like mist. Mia understood that her journey wasn't just about overcoming her limp, it was about embracing every part of herself. It was about connection, friendship, and allowing herself to be seen. And in that moment, as she looked out into the smiling faces of the audience, every struggle, every doubt became a part of the beautiful tapestry they had woven together. The girl with the limp had not only danced, she had transformed her story into a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, one can find joy, community, and above all, the wild courage to shine. The auditorium buzzed with excitement, the kind of energy that sends a shiver down your spine. A hush fell over the crowd as the lights dimmed and a single spotlight flickered to life. On stage, a girl stood nervously at the edge, her heart racing like a wild horse. Mia, the girl with the limp, took a deep breath, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes upon her. This was her moment, her chance to reclaim what had felt lost. The music began softly, notes floating through the air like petals on the wind. Mia glanced down at her left leg, the limb that had betrayed her in a moment of tragedy. A car accident, a shattered dream, and the limp that haunted her. But today was different. Today, she wasn't just the girl with a disability, she was a dancer, ready to tell a story worth hearing. She took a step forward, the floor beneath her feet solid and unwavering. The crowd held its breath, tension palpable. Mia felt the whispers echoing in her mind. Will she fall? Doubt clawed at her, but she reminded herself of the steps she had practiced countless times. This was not just about the dance, it was about rising above despair. With each step, the music enveloped her, wrapping around her like an embrace. She let herself move with the rhythm, allowing her body to respond to the melody. Each sway was a confession, each turn a bold declaration that she would not be held back. The limp no longer felt like a weight, but a testament to her journey. In the back of the auditorium, Jake watched intently. He had seen Mia dance before, the effortless grace that used to exude from her like sunlight, but today he noticed something different. There was a rawness in her movements, a fire igniting as she fought against her fears. He felt a deep connection, as if their spirits were intertwined. As Mia twirled, she spotted Jake and her heart soared. She remembered the countless hours spent rehearsing in the studio where he had always supported her. He had been her biggest cheerleader, encouraging her even when she felt like giving up. On this stage, in this moment, it felt as though his belief in her was feeding her spirit. But just as confidence swelled, chaos struck. The music shifted unexpectedly, a jarring change that caught Mia off guard. She hesitated, her body faltering momentarily. She felt a surge of panic. What if I can't recover? The doubts danced in her mind, competing for attention. Yet in that split second where fear threatened to overwhelm her, something remarkable happened. Instead of succumbing to the doubt, she chose to dance through it. A quick pivot, a graceful recovery, and she transformed the stumble into a flourish that caught the audience by surprise. They gasped, then erupted into applause. A tide of exhilaration washed over her. The cheers poured in, fueling her strength. She began to feel free, as though the audience's energy lifted her higher. The limp had ceased to be a burden, it became a part of her dance, a layer of complexity enriching her performance. The music swelled again, calling her to push further. With each leap, Mia felt her spirit soar. She danced like she was rebelling against the constraints of her own body. She was not just the girl with the limp, she was a warrior, a conqueror, someone who defied the odds. The crowd erupted in forceful applause, a cacophony that spun around her like a whirlwind. But as the final note rang out and the cheers roared, a flicker of doubt entered her mind. What would happen when the lights cooled and the spotlight faded? Would she sink back into the shadows of self-doubt? Mia stepped off the stage, heart racing. Jake appeared in front of her, his face flushed with excitement. He proclaimed, wrapping her in a tight hug, "You turned that stumble into something magical." "Thanks," she replied, even though she felt a different kind of heaviness settle in her chest. But what if it was just luck? Jake stepped back, searching her eyes. "Mia, that was not just luck. You've worked harder than anyone I know. You faced challenges that would have made most people give up. Today, you conquered your fear." Her heart swelled, but doubt still lingered like shadows in the corners of her mind. She wanted to cling to his words, but the fear of returning to who she was before lost, broken, couldn't easily be shaken off. The following days morphed into a haze filled with rehearsals, yet the thrill of the performance faded into anxiety. Would she live up to her own expectations? The audience had cheered for her once, but now, as she practiced in front of the mirror, she felt disconnected. Each pirouette felt labored, each step a reminder of the risk of falling again. One afternoon, after a particularly grueling practice, Mia sat alone in the studio. The walls seemed to close in on her as she battled the turmoil of her thoughts. she murmured under her breath. Just then the door creaked open and Jake stepped in, sensing her unease immediately. "Hey you," he asked gently. Mia forced a smile. "It's okay, I guess, just frustrating." Jake approached and sat next to her, the silence heavy between them. "It's okay to feel lost sometimes. Change is hard and you've been through so much." "I thought I could get back to where I was, but now I'm not sure I can," she admitted, vulnerability spilling forth. His eyes softened and he placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "No matter what happens, you're still Mia. You have a light inside you that shines bright even when you don't see it yourself." The warmth in his words took root, but doubt still fluttered like restless butterflies in her mind. That night she lay in bed, equal parts exhausted and restless. But as she tried to sleep, a single thought kept her awake. What if her journey wasn't just about herself? What if she could use her story to help others? The next day, Mia decided to reach out to her dance community, inviting them to share their stories, moments of struggle, triumph, and emotion. Their stories intertwined, creating a rich tapestry of life and resilience. They were all connected by dance, but they were equally bound by the human condition. As she began gathering moments from her peers, she found herself inspired as well. Each person had faced their own crossroads, their own pain, and their own challenges. These experiences pulled Mia away from her own fears, igniting a newfound determination within her. Jake watched as Mia transformed, her spirit reignited. She began to practice again, not just for herself, but for everyone who believed in her story. They rehearsed together, feeling a sense of unity that was intoxicating. She saw their struggles reflected in her own, and this connection fostered a community of strength. Soon, they began preparing a group performance, not just about them, but about everyone who ever felt broken, unworthy, or lost. They planned to take the stage together, each dancer telling their own story through movement, embracing their vulnerabilities. As they rehearsed, Mia felt alive. The limp that once felt like a chain now danced alongside her, incorporated into the narrative of the performance. Every step became a celebration, not just of their individual journeys, but of their collective resilience. Finally, the night of the performance arrived, and Mia stood backstage with her fellow dancers, excitement thrumming in the air. The auditorium was packed once again, but this time the anticipation felt different. They were here to share something powerful, something raw and real. As the lights dimmed, Mia took a deep breath, clutching the hand of the dancer beside her. They stepped into the spotlight together, a wave of energy resonating through the crowd. Sparked by the music, they moved as one, a seamless blending of stories, each dancer shining in their own right. Mia found her own rhythm, dancing not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever doubted their worth. Each combination of movements shared a fragment of their lives, echoing the struggles and victories woven into their hearts. As Mia danced, the limp remained present, but it was a part of her story, an illustration of resilience, not a qualification of her ability. The crowd erupted in applause, cheers cascading through the air like confetti. As the performance ended, they stood together in a circle, united and victorious. Mia felt her heart swell. She was no longer just a girl with a limp. She was a part of something larger than herself, a movement that embraced strength in the face of adversity. As they took their bows, her eyes caught Jake's in the audience. His smile radiated warmth, and the love and pride she saw in his expression sent a surge of joy coursing through her. In that moment, she understood it was not just her dance, but a shared dance, reflecting the beauty of being human. The applause echoed long after they left the stage, but the real victory wasn't just applause. It was the powerful connections made and the stories shared. It was the understanding that while they all had their struggles, they also had the capacity for triumph. They could rise, dance, and be truly seen. As the audience filtered out, Mia felt a sense of completion wash over her. Here was proof that vulnerability could lead to connection, that pain could be woven into beauty. Her limp was no longer a symbol of what she couldn't do. It was a badge of honor, showing everyone that even when faced with adversity, she would always find a way to dance. And there, amidst the bask of victory, she realized one undeniable truth. The girl with the limp not only danced, she danced her truth, and he watched, steadfast and proud, knowing that their shared journey had made each moment, each leap, a celebration of life itself. The lights flickered dimly, casting a warm glow across the stage as the audience buzzed with anticipation. A hush descended, and the tension in the air was almost palpable. Then, through the darkness, a single figure stepped into the spotlight. Mia, the girl with the limp, was both terrified and exhilarated. Today was not about hiding. It was her moment to reclaim what she thought she had lost. She remembered the accident that had changed everything, one moment of carelessness, and a world of dance shattered. The limp was a relentless reminder of her past, a weight she carried every day. But today, that weight felt different. Today, she was ready to transform it into strength. The music began, a haunting melody that wrapped around her like a gentle embrace. Mia closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the notes seep into her body. The anxiety fluttering in her chest started to calm, replaced by determination. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, and stepped forward onto the stage. The audience was silent, countless eyes watching her every move. This was it. Her heart raced as she found her footing. Each sound made her acutely aware of her limp. Would they see her struggle? Would they judge her? The doubts rolled in, threatening to pull her under. But then she remembered Jake standing in the back, his gaze unwavering and encouraging. He had always believed in her, always seen her for more than her disability. With that thought, a fire ignited inside her. She was not just the girl with the limp, she was a dancer, and she would show them what that really meant. As the music swelled, Mia took a step, her body swaying with the rhythm. With each movement, she let go of the weight of expectations. She twirled, her arms unfurling like wings, and in that moment, she soared above her fears. The first notes felt like freedom, and she embraced them with every ounce of her being. The crowd began to respond, soft claps at first, then growing louder as she poured herself into the dance. She could feel their energy wrapping around her, holding her up, filling her with strength. In that moment, she transformed. The limp became part of her expression, a unique rhythm that spoke of resilience. Every spin, every leap was a declaration, I am here. As she danced, the music took her on a journey, each note a step closer to reclaiming her narrative. In her mind, she saw flashes of her life before the accident, the carefree girl who danced without thought. But now every movement was a battle, a dance against doubt. Suddenly, the tempo changed. A fast beat replaced the soothing melody, and Mia felt her heart race in tandem. She knew she had to keep up to flow with this new energy, but then as she spun, she stumbled. Time slowed and fear clawed at her throat. Would she fall? Would the audience see her fail? But then something remarkable happened. Instead of crumbling, she leaned into the fall, twisting her body into a move that felt spontaneous, a beautiful recovery. The audience gasped, a collective intake of breath, and then they erupted into applause like a tidal wave crashing over her. Mia felt a rush of adrenaline, her spirit lifting as she embraced the moment. The crowd's cheers became a lifeline, pulling her higher and higher. The uncertainty that had gripped her transformed into sheer joy. In that moment, she was no longer afraid. She was dancing, truly dancing. As the music reached its climax, Mia allowed the rhythm to take control. She lost herself in the melody, every beat resonating deep within her. The limp no longer weighed her down. It became part of the storytelling, a reminder of her struggle, but also her strength. The dance seemed to stretch on for eternity, each movement becoming more fluid, more powerful. She felt as if she was soaring through the air, unbound, weaving through the notes. The applause crescendoed, a surround sound of empowerment that echoed in her soul. Finally, as the final note struck, Mia landed gracefully, spreading her arms wide as if to embrace the world. The audience exploded into cheers, a powerful wave that enveloped her. She stood there, chest heaving, knowing she had shared something profound that night. But as the echo of the cheers faded, so did her momentary confidence. Mia stepped off the stage, heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and fear. The overwhelming applause faded within her. Would they still remember her tomorrow? Would they still cheer for her, or would she fade back into the girl with the limp? Jake stepped forward, his face glowing with pride. That was amazing. His joy was infectious, but doubt crept back into her mind. Thanks, she said, trying to capture the light he exuded. But what if this is just a one-time thing? Tomorrow is a new chance, Jake said, his voice steady. You danced beautifully today because you believed in yourself. You can carry that into tomorrow. You're not just the girl with the limp, you're a dancer who has faced what others fear. His words pierced through the fog of doubt, lighting a small flame of hope. But that ember still flickered uneasily within her. Days turned into a blur of practice and lingering anxiety. Mia struggled to recapture the fiery confidence she had felt on stage. Each practice felt like wading through mud, each movement heavy with self-imposed pressure. Despite Jake's encouragement, the darkness of doubt loomed large. One evening, she found herself alone in the studio, frustration bubbling over like a pot left to boil. She plopped down on the floor, wrapping her arms around her knees. She whispered to the empty room. Just then, the door creaked open, and Jake peeked in. He asked, sensing the tension in the air. He came over, concern etched on his face. I don't know, she admitted, her voice breaking. I thought I could reclaim my passion, but every time I try, I feel like I'm failing. Jake sat next to her, searching her eyes. It's normal to feel this way, he said gently. You face something profound and healing takes time. You don't have to put so much pressure on yourself. You're not defined by one performance. She muttered, tears streaming down her cheeks. You will find your way, he encouraged, his voice soft yet firm. It's okay to feel lost, you know. Embrace it. Growth often comes from the darkest places. In that moment, Mia felt a release, as if Jake's words were lifting a heavy weight off her shoulders. I want to give up, but I feel so far from who I used to be, she admitted, wiping her tears. You're not giving up, you're evolving, Jake reassured her. What if we find a way to combine our stories? Dance isn't just about the steps, it's about sharing our experiences. An idea sparked in her mind. What if we gather stories from others? Everyone struggles, everyone has a battle they fight. Yes, Jake's eyes lit up. We'll invite other dancers to share their struggles and triumphs. Over the next few weeks, Mia immersed herself in this new project. They reached out to dancers in their community, inviting them to share their journeys. Each story they collected was filled with raw emotion and unique experiences. With every narrative, Mia felt herself healing, discovering newfound strength and vulnerability. Together, they began to create a performance titled Resilience, where each dancer would showcase a personal moment that echoed the struggles they faced. They practiced together, their spirits intertwining in a way that felt like family. As rehearsals unfolded, Mia felt a fire reignite. The limp that once felt like a burden became part of the choreography, a symbol of her journey, evidence of her fight against the odds. Each dancer poured their heart into the practice, moving in synchrony, their struggles interwoven into a single powerful narrative. As Resilience neared its premiere, the energy in the studio shifted. Instead of anxiety, there was excitement and electricity that buzzed with possibility. Mia found herself dancing not out of fear, but out of hope, connected to every dancer's story. On the night of the performance, the auditorium was packed. The atmosphere felt electric, anticipation crackling in the air. Mia stood backstage, her heart racing, but this time she felt ready. As the lights dimmed and the first notes filled the air, they stepped onto the stage together. In that moment, they weren't just individuals, they were a tapestry of experiences, a collective voice celebrating resilience and vulnerability. Mia moved with the others, feeling the weight of their stories propel her forward. She danced with a passion she hadn't felt in a long time. Each movement felt liberating, each step told a story. The limp didn't define her, it was part of the evolution that had brought her here. As they reached the climax of the performance, Mia locked eyes with Jake standing in the audience. His gaze encouraged her to push further, to break through all the barriers. She soared through the air with a newfound grace, spinning and leaping, embodying the strength of her journey. When the final note struck and the last movement concluded, the audience exploded into applause. It echoed like a wave, enveloping them all in a sea of appreciation. Each cheer celebrated not just the dance, but the struggle and triumph behind it. Mia stood alongside her fellow dancers, the weight of doubt lifted entirely. They had shared something profound, and in that moment she understood the true essence of dance. It was not just about the movement, but about the connection they had forged through their stories. As they took their final bow, Mia turned to look at Jake, whose smile radiated pride. He had watched her journey with unwavering support. She realized how far she had come, not just on stage, but in understanding herself. After the performance, as they mingled and celebrated, Mia felt a sense of fulfillment deep within her. She was no longer just the girl with the limp, she was a beacon of resilience. The complexity of her journey added layers to her art, enriching her life in ways she never expected. In Jake's eyes, she found acceptance. There was someone who had seen her in her darkest moments, but had never allowed her to succumb to them. Their connection had deepened, forged through trials, triumphs, laughter, and tears. As the night drew to a close, Mia stepped onto the balcony, feeling the cool breeze brush against her skin. The stars twinkled overhead and everything felt alive. Behind her, she heard Jake approach. "You were amazing tonight," he said, joining her. "Thank you for believing in me," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "You believed in yourself," Jake replied. Mia looked out at the horizon, hope fluttering within her. "I really thought I was broken, but I see now that I'm still whole. I'm not just defined by my limp or my struggles. And that courage makes you beautiful," Jake added, taking her hand. "Dance is more than just movement, it's about sharing our truth." In that moment, Mia knew she had found her voice. She had transformed her struggles into strength, turning her pain into art. The girl with the limp not only danced, she danced her truth, illuminating her path and the paths of others along the way. And he watched, not just as a spectator, but as someone profoundly inspired by the light and resilience that radiated in her dance and in her spirit. The world may have seen the limp, but Mia knew that what truly mattered was how she danced boldly, beautifully, and unapologetically alive. The crowd held its breath, murmurs washing over them like soft waves as the spotlight illuminated the stage. Mia stood at the edge, poised with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Today was her day to show the world that despite everything, she could still dance. It had been a long journey, filled with pain and doubt, but today, for the first time in ages, she felt something stirring inside her, a flicker of hope. A year ago, everything had changed with a single, careless moment. An accident left her with a limp, an unrelenting reminder of what she had lost. Once she was a carefree dancer, spinning and leaping through life. But now she felt as if she was walking through mud, every step a reminder of her limitations. The stage loomed before her, once a sanctuary, now a place where her fears threatened to overwhelm her. The music began softly, a melody that wrapped around her like a gentle hug. Mia closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. The notes whispered promises of freedom, of strength. She shifted her weight, stabilizing herself on her right foot, and with that she felt a spark ignite inside her. She took a step forward, her heart racing. Each sound of her movement rang out, echoing in the sudden stillness. She sensed the eyes of the audience, a mix of curiosity and judgment, resting on her. Would they see her limp? But Mia was determined to show them that she was so much more than that. As the music began to swell, she surrendered to it. Her body flowed and swayed, each movement becoming a catharsis, a release of pent-up emotions. The first few steps felt uncertain, almost tentative, as she navigated the space between doubt and hope. But as she continued, she began to lose herself in the rhythm. The dance became a story. With each turn, each leap, she poured her heart into it. She wanted them to feel what she felt, the weight of the world pressing down and the joy that came from fighting back. It was the struggle that made every step significant. and as she danced, her limp transformed from a limitation into a statement of resilience, a reminder of her journey. He was in the back of the auditorium where shadows mingled with light. Jake watched with bated breath, his heart racing for her. He remembered the girl who used to dance without a care in the world, her spirit bright and unyielding. That girl was still there, deep within Mia's soul, fighting to break free. He could see the determination in her movements and the fire in her eyes. The music began to rise, demanding more from her. Mia felt it. She was in a battle, and her dance was the weapon. With every step, she felt the audience drawing in closer, enthralled and engaged. Their cheers spilled into the air like fireworks, igniting her spirit. But just as Mia felt herself soaring, a sudden change in the music threw her off balance. The tempo shifted, and in an instant her heart raced, panic clawing at her throat. What if I fall? The thought sneaked in, threatening to shatter the moment. But that was where the beauty of dance lies, within the mistakes. In a remarkable moment of clarity, she pivoted, twisting out of a stumble into a fluid motion that mesmerized the crowd. Instead of disaster, her misstep evolved into something beautiful, an unexpected flourish that left everyone gasping. The applause erupted, filling her with warmth, a wave of encouragement crashing over her. Mia felt the adrenaline surge through her veins, her body igniting with newfound energy. The limp that weighed her down transformed into a partner, one that embodied her unique journey. With each leap, she triumphed over her fears. She was a warrior in this dance of life. The final crescendo approached, and she moved with a fierce determination. This was her declaration to the world, to herself. She spun faster, letting the music guide her, losing herself to the moment. And as she reached the climax, the crowd erupted into a standing ovation. But as the applause rang in her ears, a flutter of anxiety crept back in. He stepped off that stage. Would she still feel this high? Would the fear return? Jake rushed over, excitement evident in his eyes. He said, pulling her into an embrace. Mia felt a warmth wash over her, yet a soft voice nagged in her mind. But what if it was just a one-time thing? No, you can't think like that, Jake urged, his voice steady. You've come so far, you fought your way back to this moment. Remember that feeling you had up there? She smiled weakly, but self-doubt lingered like a shadow. Over the next few days, she found herself grappling with the experience. How could she maintain that fire? Could she keep dancing without the fear dragging her back down? Mia returned to the studio, but each day felt heavier than the last. The enthusiasm that once radiated from her now felt like a flickering bulb, dim and uncertain. Every practice became a battle with doubt, every step a reminder of the struggle. One afternoon, after a particularly exhausting rehearsal, Mia collapsed into a chair, frustration boiling inside her. She whispered to herself. The door creaked open and Jake entered, a knowing look in his eyes. Hey, I can see that something's bothering you, he said, sitting next to her. I thought I could keep that feeling alive, she admitted, her voice trembling. Jake's expression softened and he put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Mia, it's absolutely normal to feel this way. You face something huge and it's okay to need time to process. But what if I can't get back to where I was? She could feel the tears welling in her eyes, her voice breaking. You don't have to dance how you used to, he replied gently. This is a chance for you to create something new. You can embrace your journey, all the ups and downs. Her heart began to soften at his words. Perhaps this was not just about returning to the dancer she had been. Perhaps it was about discovering a new version of herself. Mia wiped her eyes, taking a deep breath. What if we told our stories through dance? Jake's face lit up. That's a fantastic idea. We can invite other dancers to share their stories. With that spark ignited, Mia reached out to fellow dancers, inviting them to join in this new journey. Slowly, stories began to pour in, each one a testament to resilience. They shared their battles, painful moments that shaped who they were. As they practiced together, Mia felt the flame within her start to grow. Each dancer brought their unique narrative, and as they moved their bodies in synchronicity, they became a united force. The limp that had felt like a limitation now served as a part of her dance, a testament to the beauty found within struggle. The weeks flew by and the performance date approached. Mia stood backstage, her heart racing with a mix of nerves and excitement. They had choreographed something beautiful together, a celebration of life, of pain, and ultimately of courage. The night of the performance arrived and the auditorium was alive with energy. Mia's hands trembled nervously as the audience filled the seats. She exchanged glances with Jake, who stood in the wings, his supportive gaze grounding her. As the lights dimmed and the first notes of music filled the space, she felt the familiar rush. They stepped onto the stage together as a collective. This was not just a dance, it was a powerful narrative, a glimpse into their souls. Mia lost herself in the rhythm, each movement telling a piece of their story. The limp remained part of her dance, but it became a symbol of strength rather than weakness. As she moved, she released everything, the pain, the doubt, and the fear. Mia stood alongside her fellow dancers, their emotions flowing freely as the applause washed over them like a wave of validation and love. In that moment, Mia realized that she was not just performing for herself. She was sharing a journey filled with hope, strength, and resilience. It was about embracing their truths, about being vulnerable in a world that often demanded perfection. As they took their bows, Mia caught Jake's eye. His expression radiated pride. She knew they had created something powerful together, a performance that resonated with the audience in ways she had never anticipated. After the performance, as the crowd dispersed, Mia felt liberated. It wasn't about emerging unscathed from battle. It was about dancing amidst the chaos and learning to embrace every part of her journey. Jake asked, stepping closer, a smile on his face. "Now," Mia said, her heart full, "we keep dancing, we keep sharing our stories." Jake nodded, his eyes sparkling with inspiration. "Let's keep building on this then, let's make it bigger. We can gather even more stories, involve more dancers." As they dreamt of what could be, Mia felt alive with possibility. She understood now that her limp was a part of her but didn't define her. She was a dancer, a strong, fierce girl who would not be held back by pain. And he watched, not just as a supporter, but as someone who recognized the light within her, someone who believed that her journey could inspire others. The girl with the limp had danced not only for herself, but for everyone who felt lost or broken. In each step, she carried the stories of many, weaving them together into a beautiful tapestry of resilience. And with every dance, she would continue to remind the world that beauty often resides in the struggle, that every setback is a setup for a comeback. And together, they would keep dancing into the light. The stage was set, lights reflecting off the polished floor, casting fleeting shadows that danced with anticipation. The audience murmured, a wave of energy rippling through the crowd, waiting for that first spark. Mia stood off to the side, heart racing, palms clammy, as she gazed at the empty spotlight. Today would be the day she reclaimed her passion after so many months of doubt and pain, but beneath her determined facade, a tempest brewed. A year ago, a tragic accident left her with a limp, the haunting reminder of a life she used to know. Once, she was the girl who danced with abandon, her feet gliding effortlessly over the stage. And now, each step felt like an uphill battle. As the music began to play, a slow, haunting melody, Mia inhaled deeply, trying to push away the shadows that whispered doubts in her mind. Would they see her struggle? Would they embrace her imperfections? Or would they only see the girl with the limp? The spotlight flickered and the audience fell silent. Mia took her first step onto the stage, the wooden floor cool beneath her feet. She felt the weight of everyone's gaze, felt their expectation pressing in on her. Could she really do this? And then, as the music swelled, something shifted within her. The notes wrapped around her like a blanket, comforting yet electric. She released her fears, surrendering to the rhythm. She danced. Her movements were tentative at first, exploring the space. She spun, her arms reaching out to embrace the music. "This is my moment," she thought fiercely. Jake stood in the back of the auditorium, his heart pounding as he watched. He had seen Mia in her element before, her carefree spirit lighting up the stage, but today was different. He could see the struggle etched on her face, the way her left leg faltered slightly with each step. Yet there was power in her dance, in the way she transformed her pain into something beautiful. With every beat, Mia began to expand, her confidence growing with each rotation, each clap of the audience's hands. The limping rhythm became a part of the choreography, a statement of resilience. The crowd began to cheer, their voices rising, echoing off the walls. But just as she started to lose herself in the dance, the tempo shifted. An unexpected shift in the music sent her panic surging. What if I fall? As if on cue, she stumbled, her foot catching slightly. In that split second where fear threatened to shatter the moment, something remarkable happened. Instead of faltering, she twisted into the stumble, transforming it into a fluid motion that captivated the audience. Gasps erupted, followed by thunderous applause. The adrenaline coursed through her veins, and Mia fought against doubt. She was becoming a warrior, dancing through her fears. With each wave of applause, she soared, pushing limits she once thought impossible. The limp was still there, undeniable, yet it had become an emblem of her journey, a badge of honor. As the music reached its climax, she leaped high, feeling the freedom of the air beneath her. This was her story, her fight, and each twist and turn was all a part of what made her unique. The audience was swept away, lost in this breathtaking display of courage, but hanging just on the edge of celebration was a flicker of doubt. What would happen when the music finally faded? Would the applause still echo in her heart, or would silence creep back in, reminding her of the girl she used to be? As Mia took her final bow, she stepped off the stage, the applause washing over her in waves, yet a flicker of unease remained. Jake rushed over, his face radiating pride. "You were incredible, thanks," she replied, breathless and exhilarated but still wrestling with uncertainty. "But what if it was just a fluke?" "Mia," Jake said, his voice sincere, "you showed them the real you out there. You faced your fears, and you didn't let anything hold you back." She wanted to believe him. But as each day passed after that performance, Mia found herself struggling. The excitement faded, replaced by a heavy shadow of self-doubt. The studio that once felt like sanctuary became a place of anxiety. Every practice felt labored, every stumble a reminder of her fragile confidence. One evening, she sat alone in the studio, staring at her reflection in the mirror. It felt like she was looking at a stranger. The vibrant girl who danced with joy seemed distant, camouflaged by the weight of uncertainty. She whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. The door creaked open and Jake stepped inside. He sensed the turmoil swirling around her. he asked, taking a seat next to her. Mia sighed deeply, feeling overwhelmed. I thought I could find my way back, but now I feel lost. Jake looked at her with compassion. You're not just a performer, you're a dancer. Dancing is about exploration, about growth. Accept the struggles, but I can't just accept that, she replied, her voice trembling with frustration. Jake took a breath. What if you use this as a chance to redefine who you are? A flicker of hope ignited inside her and an idea formed. What if we created a performance that shares our stories? His face lit up. Yes, with rekindled determination, Mia reached out to fellow dancers, inviting them to share their stories, their battles, and their victories. Each story she gathered pulled Mia further from her own darkness, revealing the unbreakable spirit of everyone around her. As they practiced together, she could feel the heaviness lifting. Each rehearsal became a celebration of their collective struggle and resilience. The limp was no longer just a burden, it became part of the narrative, shaping their movements into a stunning portrayal of strength. In that process, Mia found healing. No longer did she feel like she was racing against time, against herself. She embraced her journey, allowing every flaw and imperfection to fuel her dance. The girls and boys she danced with became family, their bonds forged through shared vulnerability. The nights passed quickly, anticipation bubbling as the performance date drew closer. On the night of the show, the auditorium was abuzz with eager faces, a sea of excitement. Mia stood in the wings, her heart pounding, a blend of nerves and anticipation coursing through her. As the lights dimmed, the audience quieted. Taking a deep breath, they stepped into the spotlight together, a collective force unified by their individual stories. What they shared that night was not just dance, it was the essence of their humanity, a glimpse into their realities. With each movement, Mia found herself lost in the rhythm. The limp felt lighter, no longer a hindrance, but a part of the narrative that shaped her life. They danced stories filled with joy, heartbreak, struggle, and triumph. The audience was quiet, absorbed in the raw honesty that enveloped them. Mia spotted Jake in the crowd, his eyes fixed on her, filled with pride. In that instant, she understood this was not just her story. It was a chorus of voices, a tapestry of shared experiences. With each leap, she soared higher, not just for herself, but for everyone who ever felt alone. As they reached the crescendo, tears glistened in her eyes. Then, at the peak of it all, the music halted and the spotlight intensified. Mia spun into a heartfelt pose, arms outstretched, capturing the audience's breath. The intensity of that moment was electric, powerful enough to transcend boundaries. But then, in the silence that followed, something unexpected happened. There was a loud crash from the back of the auditorium, a chaotic commotion erupting through the air. Mia froze, the spotlight still vibrant around her, but dread gripped her heart. She could see the panic flash across Jake's face. In that moment, the world around her faded, leaving only the raw vulnerability of the stage. Whispers spread through the audience like wildfire. Suddenly, everything felt uncertain once more. What had been a moment of triumph was now tinged with fear. Mia's heart raced. She stood frozen in place, torn between the reality of the situation and the world of dance she had just embodied. Jake pushed through the crowd, his urgent gaze locked on hers. He shouted, urgency coloring his tone. The audience murmured, confusion swirling in the air as Mia stood still, heart racing, unsure of what would happen next. The chaos threatened to engulf her, a reminder of the fears she had fought so hard to overcome. Would she have to fight not just for herself, but for everyone who had come to witness their truth? Would she be defined by that moment or by the strength to rise, even when everything around her felt like it was crumbling? At that instant, she realized she was once again standing at the crossroads. Would she succumb to fear, or would she embrace the dance as her shield? The choice lay before her like the moment before a dancer takes flight. And as she felt the spotlight warming her skin, she could hear the music beginning to swell again, calling her back home. Could she still dance? In that frantic heartbeat, only one question remained unanswered. Would she embrace the chaos surrounding her, or would she let it break her? The answer was hers to decide in that very moment, suspended between the worlds of fear and courage.